where'd you hear that? I think I always figured, like, somebody has to make it. I didn't know it could be a joke, though.
I knew from really early, my dad is a really big animation fan, and he had laser discs of every Looney Tunes cartoon that he would watch with me and my brother. So I don't actually ever remember thinking that they weren't made by people. I felt lucky in that way.
Yeah, when I was real little, I loved to animate on flip books, and so I was animating from a pretty young age on flip books all the time, and then I just remember watching The Simpsons thinking I wanted to do that all the time, yeah.
I think it was at the end of high school, and I realized I had no other skill, so I was like desperately flipping through brochures, and the CalArts one popped out to me because it had like model lineups and backgrounds, and I was like, wait, okay, I could do this. I'm not going to be an engineer, but maybe I can draw cartoons.
So any other memories of Cartoon Network shows when you were growing up or when you were in art school? Were you looking at things and thinking, I could do that? Or were you, what was it like? What were you saying?
Samurai Jack was the coolest shit on TV. Blowing our minds when we were at CalArts. I was just like, what?
So what brought all of you to Cartoon Network Studios? Like, I think JG, you were the first one to...
I was going to CalArts at the time, and Daniel Chong was just coming out of an internship, and we were in the same year level, so he's like, hey, do you want to do this internship at Cartoon Network? And I said, yeah. So I went and I interned on Gendy's show Clone Wars, and I can remember interacting with you like one time where you were looking over sheets, and I was like, what are those? And you're like, you can number some of these. But it was just like looking at it, being like, what is this for?
And then there was some point where you two were working together, right? You, Penn and JG, you were...
Yeah, we were like roommates for a while. When we were, I think it was during the internship time, because it was a creative internship, so we got to do storyboards while we were doing the internship that we could pitch later. And I remember us just being like crammed into this little apartment and like animating on a mattress, being like, gotta pitch this stuff. But then another friend of ours who was going to CalArts at the time, Thurup, we were in a screenwriting class with him. He was working at Cartoon Network, and he made a show called Flapjack. And so I was working as a revisionist on Camp Laszlo at the time, which he was on, but we got that show, he brought me on as his creative director, and then we just started hiring all of our friends. Penn was on it, and Pat McHale, and tons of people.
I think you liked my film at school, and yeah, you gave me a shot. Thanks, dude.
I think films are so important because when you see them, you can just see someone's like sensibilities and like charm, and you're like, oh, they can make something funny, and I think it's funny. We've got the same sensibilities. It's like.
I followed Penn to Cartoon Network. I think we didn't even do films together at school, but I would just see him late at night, and he saw that I kept working long after I should have, and he was like, okay, maybe him.
Adam's brilliant. I love him. Adam had all these comics at CalArts in his cubicle. He had just a wall of comics, and I would sit outside his cubicle and just take one and read them while he was working, and then I would just take his comics and sit next to him and read the comics.
So then, when you all got there, the old guys, I guess, were you guys, right? So you had some OG Cartoon Network creators there that you could talk. Did you all get to know each other? Like, what was that like?
A little bit. I remember one story was Penn, JG, and I were sitting in the like local area, and we were talking about cartoons, and I was saying like, oh, you know, Tex Avery and Bugs Bunny and blah blah blah, and they're staring at me coldly, and I was like, well, what did you guys grow up on? It's like Dexter, and I was like, oh, and I felt really old, really fast.
Yeah, that happens. You mentioned you voted for Dexter once.
Yes, I